hate how you sound on recordings, not because puberty missed you, bro, but because you simply haven't developed your voice yet. And I've mapped out the entire process from sounding like this.
I'm gonna try it, and I'll let you guys know how it goes.
To my voice now. And if you can't watch a deep dive video on the most important factor of your charisma, then you're better off just believing the bullshit that your voice is just up to genetics. But if you actually want to fix the biggest block in your wealth, dating, social life, then lock the fuck in. My promise to you is that 3 things are going to change after you implement this video. The very first is your wealth. The second is your relationships. And the third is your self-image. And of course, money is great, money buys you freedom, but relationships are the most important aspect of life. Dr. Laurie Santos, a researcher at Yale, found out that the thing that contributes most to your happiness is the quality of your relationships. And this has been proved over and over again in studies. And the number one regret of the dying is simply that they didn't spend more time with their loved ones. So this shit's important. And lastly, self-image, right? The way that you see yourself. This affects every other part of your life, meaning your self-image is going to have a huge effect on your relationships. Your relationships are going to have a huge effect on your finances. And by improving your voice, you're not just sounding cooler, right? You're improving this right here, the backbone of everything. And this totally makes sense too, right? Because when it was my senior year of college, I'm staring at my laptop screen at this marketing client that I have right now. I'm doing their marketing research and they're going over what I've done. And they're like, Luke, this is the worst work that you've given us yet. Like, this is not acceptable. We're going to have to make some changes or you are going to lose us as a client. And this was jarring for me too. My stomach sank because I never heard that before, right? I made pretty good grades in school. I had always tried to do my best work and clients were usually impressed with my marketing work. But this client called me the fuck out because in the rest of my life, my relationships were shit. I just broken up with my long-term girlfriend and I lost a lot of friends because of that. My self-image was really shit because of all of that. And of course, that's leading into every other aspect of my life. And it all came down to the fact that I was psychologically predisposed to having a weak voice, meaning not just a voice that sounds weak, but not being able to stand up for myself, not being able to express my needs fully. And because I lacked the skills and abilities that come with having a masculine voice, the rest of my life was shit. My point is, yes, we're going to talk about the sexy stuff, the money, the status, but it's all going to be a byproduct of your self-image and your relationships. And the very first thing you need to know that no one else is going to tell you is that voice is the path to influence and charisma. I have been absolutely convinced of this recently because whenever I was a charisma coach, right, a charisma mentor, every single time that my client had a problem, it would reflect in their voice, right? They'd say, oh, I just can't go up to girls, right? Like my feet won't even move. When I go up, my voice is shaky. And it's like I almost can't speak to them freely. And so I'm like, okay, bro, why is your voice shaky? Why are you not speaking freely? Oh, well, it's because I'm scared. Okay, why are you scared? Because I'm putting girls on a pedestal. Why are you putting girls on a pedestal? Because I had this thing happen to me in childhood where I now believe that I'm not worthy of women. There it is, bro. There it fucking is. Not only do you realize a lot of psychological blocks whenever you assess your voice, but at the same time, by fixing your voice, you naturally start to fix a lot of the psychological blocks that come along with it because it is the most revealing part of yourself. What I've learned through working with dozens of clients, because this would happen over and over and over again, is that you are your voice. Your voice is the deepest reflection of yourself. And I'm telling you, bro, as soon as this client started fixing his voice, right, started becoming more expressive, loud, masculine, purposefully, he started pulling more at the club than he ever had before. I'm super proud of you, bro, if you're watching. My point is, this isn't about to be a presentation on speaking skills, right? I'm not about to tell you how to make a really good PowerPoint. We are going to work on voice, which means the fundamental skills behind persuasion, seduction, leadership. These are the kinds of things that we're going to be working on, which in turn will help you make a good PowerPoint. But we're working on the fundamentals, which matter a lot more. So, Luke, practically, how are we making this really cool voice transformation where we actually fundamentally change ourselves at the same time? There's 3 pillars. First is physical training. Second is emotional integration. Third is mindset. And all of these are your supports for an incredibly persuasive, seductive, sexy ass masculine voice that actually gets you what the fuck you want out of life. And underneath all of these, the absolute foundation of everything is mindset. Because you ask every millionaire how he made $1 million, and it's all going to come down to some form of mindset. It is the most important thing in any endeavor you take on. And by the way, bro, I can only go over so much in a YouTube video. If you want the exact practical steps for each of these to be able to nail each pillar of voice without having to spend years and years sifting through books and YouTube videos like I did just to find the tiny relevant bits of information, you can click the first link in the description. So let's go ahead and start out with mindset. The first thing when it comes to mindset is you have to be absolutely convinced that your voice fucking matters, because there's going to be so many people who are going to tell you the opposite of it doesn't really matter what you sound like. It's okay to not sound so macho and masculine all the time. That's not the fucking point, bro. Like, you and I are in the self-improvement space, and we kind of understand that, of course, there's going to be some normie things that aren't exactly 100% on point. The point isn't to have this domineering and masculine voice all the time where you have to assert yourself over other people, right? No. The point is to have these skills and ability to be assertive, to speak what the fuck is actually on your mind. And voice matters much more than anything else in charisma. So you can have body language, you can have eye contact, you can have, what are other things that have to do with charisma, right? The words that you say. But your voice is a much larger multiplier. You can imagine like body language can be, if you have really good body language, maybe it's a 1.5 times multiplier to the overall score of charisma. This is like a skill in a game, right? This is your charisma skill. Maybe body language is 1.5. Maybe your eye contact it's all right. So it's like a 0.9 multiplier. Maybe your words are really on point. So it's a 1.7. Voice has a range much larger than any of these other ones. So it can range from like 0.25, 0.25 all the way to a 10 times multiplier. And this is because, like I said, it's the deepest reflection of yourself. People take it a lot more seriously. In people's perceptions, right, there's a few things that matter. People take into account the depth of your voice, and this kind of conveys to them how much authority you have, how much trust they should put into you. We are literally programmed to respect depth of voice. We are also programmed to pay attention to variation, right? Variation captures attention. Because if you have someone who speaks incredibly monotone and it's just a bore to listen to, it sounds like he's not into whatever he's saying, right? But whenever you use variation like I do when I'm speaking, right, my pitch isn't always super low, but it's not always super high either, and I'm not always speaking really fast or really slow. I kind of vary it, and it makes it seem as if there's a lot of emotion behind what I'm saying, because there is, bro. I'm very passionate about what I talk about. So keeping these two, these two are huge, and keeping these two in mind along with all of the other things we're going to talk about is going to help you take your voice multiplier from 0.25 to a 10 by the end of this video. The next thing in mindset you have to realize is that voice is just as much a physical thing as a mental thing. I like how I'm blowing on my iPad as if I'm drying the ink, bro. So each of these two sides of yourself are going to have blocks, right? You can have physical and mental blocks in your voice that make it sound weak. But there's one thing that removes both kinds of blocks, and that is relaxation. If you're able to relax through them, you can remove both physical and mental blocks. So a lot of the things we're going to talk about aren't necessarily going to be quote unquote crafting a perfect voice, right? It's going to be more so undoing all of the tension that you've built up through your day, through years of each of your days, right? That you just carry in your body, in your mind, right? Because when you have tension in the mind, it shows up in the body. And whenever you relax and remove both kinds of blocks, you're able to relax and unlock the voice that you truly have. All right, and there's two more things I want to talk about in mindset. First is state control. The way that you are improving your relationships, the way that you are improving your finances is by taking on more and more positions of leadership in your life, more responsibility. That's naturally how life progresses, right? The better you get at charisma, the better relationships you want, the more you kind of have to lead them. The more money you want, the more responsibility you have to take on at your job. It makes sense. But to be able to do that and to be able to use your voice in that way, you need to master this ability of state control, which means two things. One, you have to master your inner dialogue. how you speak to yourself, right? If you're calling yourself a piece of shit all the time, you're going to act like a piece of shit. You're going to act like someone who deserves that. But if you are hyping yourself up all the time, even when you fail, right? If even when you fail, you're like, you know what? You still fucking tried. You got out there and you gave it your all. Good shit. Imagine how amazing it would be to have that best friend in your corner at all times who's constantly just hyping you up. Bro, that is the benefit you get whenever you just change your inner dialogue to be positive. So, very first, start treating yourself as if you were a best friend. BFF. As soon as you can start forcefully replacing the thoughts in your mind that you are having, as soon as you catch them, right? If you catch yourself calling yourself a piece of shit and forcefully replacing it and saying, no, I fucking tried. The more you do that, the more unconscious it's going to become that you just start talking to yourself in a positive way. The next half of state control is using your voice and body language to project command presence. And command presence is something from the military, right? It's the ability to project the idea that you are in control of yourself and the situation, no matter the outside circumstances. And whenever you do this, you're able to start a positive feedback loop that just self-perpetuates. Meaning, you believe that you are in control, so you become in control, which means that you further believe that you are in control no matter what the fuck is happening around you. You will handle it. And we're going to come back to this and talk more in detail about it later. Last thing in mindset is the way that you go from this 0.25 to the 10 times multiplier, right? So you're not just going to watch a YouTube video and do nothing, because the only way that you can sharpen your voice is through assertive communication. Purposefully putting yourself in situations over and over again where you are uncomfortable, that is outside of your comfort zone. So you watch a video on voice and you don't just watch video after video after video, right? You go out and use what you fucking learned in real life. You get this idea, I talk about command presence and you're like, oh, okay, bet I'm going to use that today in one of my conversations. I'm going to try as much as I can to just ooze this feeling of command presence. And it's going to feel weird, right? It's going to be out of your comfort zone. It's going to feel like you're almost putting on or being someone that you're not. But really, you're just getting more and more comfortable with the habits of the charismatic. Because every charismatic person, every charismatic voice has certain habits. And once you implement each one of them, it just seems like you're a charismatic person. That's where we're going to get you to. Basically, recognize you're not just watching YouTube videos, you're actually changing shit because you were taking assertive action. Now we can get into the super freaking fun stuff, bro. Next is physical training. The very first thing you have to realize with the physical aspect of voice is that you are not just speaking from right here, right? Most people, whenever they are thinking about their voice and how they speak, they just imagine it coming out of their mouth, right? Like this. This is you, bro. Your little hair. And that's your voice. Most people imagine it coming from right here, right? That's where it's made. Maybe even some people see it right here in the throat because you have your voice box down there. But really, where's your beer gut? Your belly button. I'm just roasting you right now, bro. My bad. No, you know what? You got abs. You're chilling. You got a six pack. Don't worry, bro. Okay. An immediate way to get more power in your voice is just to realize full body speaking, right? You don't speak just through your mouth. You don't speak just with your throat, but you are taking power from all of your throat. You're taking power from your chest. You're taking power from your stomach, right? This is where the source of your breath is coming from. You're taking power from, you are using parts of your back, your rib cage, right? Voice is even being reflected and multiplied off of the top of your head when you speak. Whenever you recognize that you're not just speaking with your mouth, but using your entire body to do so, you open up a lot of these involuntary muscles, right? Because there are muscles like your arm that you can just move whenever, right? You can do a bicep curl, and there's other muscles like your, I'm not gonna draw an anatomical heart, bro. There's other muscles like your heart, right? You can't move your heart, but you have all kinds of muscles like this in your body, in your stomach, right? In your chest, in your throat. All these tiny muscles that you can't necessarily control, but can be influenced through visualization. So if you're able to visualize you using your whole entire body to speak, naturally these muscles are going to loosen up, they're going to relax, they're going to help your voice. This is another reason why we're more so unlocking your voice than we are crafting one. Because the more of these involuntary muscles you are able to relax, the more of them that you're able to use, the more powerful that your voice is going to come across without any extra effort. So going off of that, one of the first things that we can start with is creating a free breath. Most people are breathing with their chest and their shoulders, right? You can see them moving up and down. It's because we've been taught to have our chests out, to suck our stomachs in while we're walking. It's more attractive to do that. But in reality, you are closing off all avenues for your voice. Like I said before, the more muscles that you have relaxed, the less physical tension you have in your body, the more powerful your voice is going to come across, the deeper it's going to sound, the more resonant, the more you're able to project without even trying. And this is a lot more important than someone seeing your tummy move, right? Because no one really actually fucking cares. Think about a fat king, bro. Think about a fat, happy king. Does this king really care if someone sees his stomach moving whenever he's breathing? No. He's like, coming in, peasant. All right. So how can we create this free, kingly breath, bro? It's going to be through visualization. Let's say this is your head, your neck. This is the rest of your body. So this is you, once again. You're pretty happy today. Like I said, while most people are breathing right here, you want to be breathing way down here. In fact, down here. Whenever you breathe, I want you to visualize breathing into your balls. Because of course, rationally, we know that we're not actually taking breath from the balls. Your breath isn't stored in the balls. Pee is. Everyone knows this. So we know that you're not taking your breath actually into the balls, but when you visualize this, you're influencing the musculature, right? The involuntary musculature to make it so that you're actually breathing correctly. And what you're doing in real life is you're using your diaphragm. So this is where your rib cage is. Say that's your rib cage. Your diaphragm is this muscle right here. And it's connected all the way across the bottom of your rib cage. And you can feel this too, right? You can feel kind of your rib cage where it ends at the front of your body. Go ahead and do this and like kind of almost get your fingers underneath the bottom of that last bone. And then do the same with the back of your rib cage too. And you'll notice it's kind of lower, right? The back of your rib cage is lower than the front of your rib cage. Across all of that, across that whole diagonal line in your body is one muscle. Actually, hold on, bro. Okay. So, you can imagine it kind of like this turkey baster. Across the entire bottom of your rib cage is this turkey baster. And whenever you breathe in, that happens with your diaphragm. It expands. And as you notice, it sucks air in through the top. And whenever you breathe out, it's like you're pushing your diaphragm up. And so air is coming out the top of here. And this is what's actually causing your stomach to move, right? It's not because you're actually taking any breath into your stomach. It's because your diaphragm is simply pushing everything else in your stomach down and out. And the reason I brought this bad boy out is because the better you can visualize this happening, the easier it is for you to influence those muscles. A free breath is actually from diaphragmatic breathing, using your diaphragm and not all of these muscles in your chest and shoulder. And as soon as you start breathing like this, breathing from your fucking balls, you're going to sound a lot more deep, a lot more grounded, a lot more resonant. And your voice is naturally going to come across as powerful in a way that you've never felt before. And I can't wait for you to experience that, bro. Next thing we'll talk about is depth. Depth of voice. Specifically, we're going to talk about it in terms of hitting depth. Because everyone has one set of vocal cords, right? That's true. But most people aren't hitting the depth that they're actually given. And by simply doing a couple things to hit your natural depth, your voice is going to be a lot deeper than most people's, because most people never do this shit, right? They never unlock the depth they actually have. So just like a squat, bro, we're going to be hitting depth, your natural depth. And the easiest way you can do this is to start speaking from your chest voice rather than your head voice. Most people are speaking way up here. And the reason it's called head voice is because you can kind of feel the vibrations almost in your face, right? In your mask, in your nose. And whenever you speak from up here, you sound a lot less offensive. It's a lot easier to be not so commanding, domineering. But it also ruins any of the power behind your voice. And this is one of the main reasons why I sounded like a bitch for years, right? It's because I was simply speaking in my head voice. And the thing is, Whenever you speak in head voice over and over again, it develops really, really well. So not only do you think it's just your voice, quote unquote, but it sounds really natural and it's easy to do. But just because something is familiar does not mean it's right or healthy. Same thing is true with chest voice. Whenever you speak in it enough, it becomes so easy to speak in it. It feels like your voice and it gets really, really, really well developed. That is what we want for you. So even if at first, if it feels like when you're speaking at chest voice, it feels like you're putting on, it feels like it's not quite your voice, speak in it anyway. Keep going because you are strengthening it. The best way to tell which voice you're speaking in is start speaking and then just put your hands on your nose, right? Pinch your nose. And if your voice doesn't change very much, it means you're speaking in chest voice. So whenever I was speaking in head voice and I was way up here, if I were to put my hands on my nose, you can really tell a difference. But when I'm speaking in my normal voice now, it's almost like it's not nearly as much of a difference whenever I put my hands on my nose. So doctor's recommendation for you, Dr. Luke, is put your fingers on your nose in the morning before you, like when you're waking up, before you go outside, talk to people and all that shit. Put your fingers on your nose and just start speaking. Right? Talk about your night. Talk about how you're feeling right now, the morning. And just for a couple seconds, realize, oh, am I speaking in head voice right now or am I speaking in chest voice? And once you find chest voice, just try to speak from this place the rest of the day. And there's a lot more cool stuff we can talk about in Hitting Depth. And if you want to get more into it, it's the first link in the description. Next is projection. And this one was one of the hardest for most of my clients, because this is really putting your voice out there. For the first time, you're going to be using your voice and it's going to be easily grabbing attention. And most people, whenever this first happens, almost aren't ready for it, right? They aren't ready for that level of attention. But you almost have to go through the fire anyway. Because when you first start projecting, you're going to have all of these limiting beliefs coming up of you're being too loud, too assertive, too dominant, right? And it's just rude even. That was a big one for people. People just thought they were being rude. But in reality, you just don't realize that you haven't been projecting all of your life. Meaning you think it's normal right now for people to ask you to speak up over and over again. You don't even notice when people ask you. It's just something you do because it's so ingrained in you. And this was me for the longest time, bro. But I'm telling you, as soon as you start realizing these excuses are bullshit. Not only that, but people like you more when you project because they can simply hear you. It seems like you're this confident guy who doesn't really give a fuck what other people are thinking of you or your conversations. Because at this point, you're speaking loud enough for not only the person in front of you to hear, but even people who are around you to hear. That's such a confident move, bro. Because why should you really care what anyone thinks about your thoughts or your conversation with someone else? It shouldn't matter if someone else in the room hears you because you're just being you. And you're a confident man with nothing to hide. You immediately come across as more friendly, easier to talk to, more powerful even. And it's all just because you're projecting your voice. So the easiest way to do this is to imagine your words as arrows, right? Arrows that you were shooting across the room. So whenever you were speaking to someone, almost imagine speaking, like shooting your arrow, your voice, this specific word behind them, past them, right? And whenever you can imagine placing your words like arrows, they naturally carry further. Start doing this and I guarantee your social life is going to change very quickly. Next in PT is resonance. Now this one is almost an invisible upgrade, right? Most people never think that their voice is carried by other parts of their body, but this is part of full body speaking. So you have your head, your neck, your torso, your legs. You're a cool looking guy. So whenever you're speaking, you have these sound waves, right? And these waves of sound that are coming out of your mouth naturally want to be multiplied. They naturally want to get louder. But they need two things to do this. One is a relaxed surface. Two is attention. Sound waves are hoes for attention, bro. Absolute whores for that shit. What this means is your voice naturally resonates across other parts of your body. Your chest, it resonates in. The mask of your face, right? Around your nose and your mouth, it resonates there, of course, but it also resonates off the top of your head, in your eye sockets, in your neck, across your legs, right? All parts of your body are used to resonate these sound waves if you allow it. Meaning these waves are multiplied and your voice carries further gets deeper, is more powerful, simply by creating more relaxed surfaces and by paying attention to the vibrations, right? If you really pay attention whenever you're speaking in chest voice to your chest and you feel the vibrations, it's almost like they get louder, it gets more, right? It's because when you're paying attention to them and you're purposefully trying to create them, you're relaxing these involuntary musculature in your chest. You can kind of imagine it's like firing off an air horn right into a carpet or into an opera hall, which is going to carry more, which is going to have more resonance. It's the same sound, but the place that you were doing it, the environment, makes it carry. The next thing to realize in physical training is your delivery. So there are 4 aspects to delivery. There's pitch, pause, pace, and volume. Each of these 4 things contribute to the attention that you get because these are all controlled by variation. How much you vary each of these determines how much attention you're grabbing. Whenever you speak way up here and then you bring it back, you bring it down, you use more pause in your speech, what you're doing is you're creating emotion. And not only do all 4 of these come up whenever you are emotional about a topic, but you can purposefully think and use each one in specific situations. And when you do that, they become highlighters. So, if you were to pause before something really, really important, it sounds like it's really important. You highlight the words right before and after the pause. Same thing as if you were speaking really fast and then you slow way down. Whenever you purposefully use variation and you use your highlighters, you're able to make much more of an impact on the people around you because you grab their attention by the fucking throat. Last, in physical training, is tone. And this is kind of similar to variation in pitch, right? To variation in delivery. The reason this matters is because people are always thinking on 2 separate train tracks, right? They're always thinking of the words that you're saying, right? They're analyzing them, understanding what your words that you're saying actually mean. And this is worth about 10% of communication. There's a ton of studies that prove this. You can just pick your favorite. But the other 90% of communication comes from the other half of thinking that's always going on, which is other people's inner dialogue. I don't think that's how you spell dialogue, but you know what? We're not going to worry about it. So at the same time as you are understanding what my words mean whenever I say, let's work on tone, you also have this voice in your head that's saying, oh, this guy's room is cool. I wish I had a room like that. Man, what cool books. I know. I have very cool books in a cool room. We'll have a cute sleepover, bro. But the way that you influence this 90% of communication is not through the words that you say, but it's through the way that you say it. It's your tone. And there's 2 specific tones to work on. 2 specific tones to master. The very first is bubbling enthusiasm. Almost having like something you really, really want to get across. Something amazing. This is you trying to tell your best friend that you need to invest in Amazon. It is 1998 and you have to invest in Amazon because this shit is going to blow up, right? It's almost like you can't control your enthusiasm, but you're pushing it down. It's bubbling just below the surface. Whenever you're able to master this tonality, you are naturally going to vary your speech. You're naturally going to use the intonation that captures attention. This is how I'm speaking most of the time with my homies. Most of the time when I'm on dates, I'm enthusiastic. I'm so excited to be there. Most of the time when I'm with my employers, I'm like, yes, let's fucking go. Let's make today happen. And the other tone to get really good at is command presence. I told you we'd come back. So by always having this air of calmness, even in the most difficult situations, by consistently knowing and feeling, okay, this is the thing we need to do. Let's make it happen. And by communicating that in every part of your voice, every part of your body language, right? Because the 2 kind of work on each other. You're able to come across as naturally authoritative, as someone who naturally has this ability of leadership. And the more that you can master a tone of authority and a tone of bubbling enthusiasm, the more and more you are able to persuade and influence people's inner dialogues, which allows you to get what the fuck you want out of life. All right, now let's move on to some of the deeper shit. We are now getting into emotional integration. The very first thing you have to realize in the emotional component of this video is that right now you have inaccurate empathy. Make that I capital. There we go. Boom. What I'm saying is I'm calling you out right now, bro. You are probably the kind of person who thinks that you know what other people are thinking pretty decently well, right? If a girl rejects you, you know, oh, it's because I made this social mistake. It's because I did this thing. Because you're pretty tuned in, charisma-wise, right? This isn't the first time that you've tried to master your charisma. So you think your emotional intelligence is pretty high. False. I need you to eat. I made this pie for you, bro. I made this pie for you. And I need you to eat a slice of my humble pie. Take some humility and think, okay, I don't know what other people are thinking. And it's not because you don't have emotional intelligence. It's because you have all of these cognitive distortions working against you, right? Everyone has at least 2 or 3 of these bad boys that are constantly coming up. Mine are personalization, jumping to conclusions, and emotional reasoning. I'm really, really bad at all of those. Meaning maybe you flub a presentation. Maybe you stumble on your words and you think everyone noticed, everyone saw how silly that mistake was. That girl must hate you because she didn't speak to you, right? Because she didn't respond to your text. Fact is, bro, people like us, we get so in our heads about this kind of thing that we don't know what other people are thinking. We no longer have an accurate view of other people's thoughts. Meaning from now on, the only way that you know for a fact what someone else is thinking is if you ask them. If you were like, hey, what did you think when this happened? How do you feel about this? Because otherwise, your mind is constantly playing tricks on you. And as soon as you are able to eat this little bit of humble pie and realize that your emotional intelligence is not as high as you think it is, that is the moment when you're actually able to increase it. Because when you have this ego about it, you can't do shit. And the first way to boost your emotional intelligence is to be able to identify your emotions. Because once you can identify them, that is when you can start to integrate them. So the very first part of the skill that I want you to start doing is every time you feel this overwhelming sense of emotion for something, right? Maybe you just feel like you're in this rut, you're so stuck, and it fucking sucks. I want you to point out exactly what it is. You're not just in a rut. You're not just in a funk, right? What emotion is it exactly? Are you feeling isolated, persecuted? Are you feeling not just sad? Is it despair, grief, powerless, shamed? What exact emotion are you feeling? Because when you can point out each of these individual emotions, because they come as a mixed bag, right? It's whenever you have this overwhelming sense of emotion, it's usually not just one. It's usually a bunch of things all together. Whenever you're able to point out each one, you recognize they're not so scary. 2, you're able to integrate them, move past them, use them rather than being used by them. And this is how some people, bro, this is how some people just kill it in life. This is an amazing skill for building businesses, building a killer physique, because this is how that one guy who disappeared for a year and came back just shredded because his girlfriend broke up with him. This is how he did it. It's because he didn't allow the pain that he was feeling to use him, to keep him in bed. No. He used that drive, that motivation to fucking get jacked. As soon as you're able to master the skill of emotional integration, life gets a lot easier. You use your voice a lot more naturally. And the second half of emotional integration is mastering instinct. Because think about how this really Chad guy talks to girls, right? He doesn't go up and he's thinking, oh, what's the exact line I should say? What's my first word? What's the second thing? What happens if she says no versus when she says yes? No. The only thing going through his mind is, oh, she's pretty fit. And he walks up and says, oh, hey, you're pretty fit. He doesn't overthink at all, and he says exactly what's on his mind. Because honestly, this guy had a pretty great upbringing, right? He might not have faced a lot of the challenges in life that some of us have. He might have had really great role models, right? Really great parents, and he understands how dating and love should look. But people like us, right? People who are ambitious, who have extraordinary dreams for life, we have usually been through some shit. Because it's not a normal way to think, bro. It's not a normal way to think, hey, I want to master my voice to become the absolute best person that I can be. It's abnormal in the best way. We are that small percentage of men who is trying to get the absolute best out of life. And it's not for no reason. It's because some fucked up shit has happened to us. And that's okay. Because while it means we have to work harder than Chad does, it also means that we are going to be better for it in the long run. Meaning when Chad is hit with some unfortunate news, whenever shit does come up in his life, he's not going to have the skills to deal with it like we do. By learning about the voice, by mastering charisma, you're going to be a lot better off than people who are just naturally gifted. Because your natural gifts kind of get you this far. But whenever you start down here, you make it a point to keep going up and up and up. But the difference between these two places right now is instinct. Meaning whenever you were a kid, baby you, got your little baby hair, your baby eye, you're upset. So you're going to say that you're upset, right? You're going to cry. What this used to look like was you had the thought that you were hungry. And then you just expressed that thought. Boom. Easy peasy. But whenever you grow up and you learn that there's specific ways to say that you're hungry, there's ways to be polite, there's certain ways that you have to act and be. And if you grew up getting a lot of negative feedback when you were a kid, which you and I probably did, let's be real, you now think. This is all of your thinking. You think and think and think and think and think and think, and then finally you express yourself. And maybe you never even get to this point because you're just so busy wrapped up in your thinking. The fact is, right now you have an emotional block that is not letting you just do this. And this isn't to say that you should always be speaking without thinking, right? But my point is that you should have the choice between thinking about what you have to say and spontaneous expression. Right now, this is completely blocked to you. You just can't do it because you are overthinking so much. But this is also a skill that you can learn. So that's the good news. And it comes through purposefully undoing all of these mental blocks that you've been having to spontaneous, reflexive expression, right? The whole goal is to get this so that you have the ability for you to have an emotional state happening in your body and for you to reflexively use your voice, reflexively speak that emotional state. You unlock this ability, one, through understanding your needs, which is kind of like understanding your emotions, and two, by expressing them confidently. So whenever you recognize that you have the need for women, on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he literally puts the need for sex right next to eating and shitting. It's a physiological need that you have. So it's not weird that you want a girlfriend, a wife, quality girl. It's not weird that you want to fit into a group. You want to be respected, loved, popular even. That's not weird. That's a literal human need. And whenever you can understand your needs and recognize it's not weird that I want these things, there's nothing about me that is that different from another human being, and you start expressing those needs confidently, you get better and better and better at mastering reflexive speaking, spontaneous speech. Now it's not hard for you to go up and talk to girls anymore. Now it's not hard for you to speak what's on your mind at work. And the better that you get at this cycle, the better you unlock social flow. You've probably heard of the flow state where it's like the difficulty of a task is on one side and then the other side is your ability. And in this area where you're highly skilled and it's also a difficult task, that is where flow lives. The thing is, you get here in the social world whenever you are acting on instinct. You naturally start to put yourself in situations that are a bit more high risk whenever you do that. Asking a girl for her phone number, asking for a promotion at work, speaking what's really on your mind, even if some people might not like it. Whenever you're doing that, that's a more difficult situation. But because you unlock your ability to act reflexively, your ability goes through the roof, meaning a lot of the time you're going to be operating up here. This is a mode of being you've been in whenever you're goofing around with your friends, and it's like joke after joke after joke just comes to you. If you've been with a girl and you feel so in line with her, bro, this is the state that you've been in, because the conversations have a high degree of skill required, and you also have that skill because you're speaking and acting reflexively. My point is, your life gets a lot better whenever you start to live in this state of social flow. All right, the last and the most permanent pillar of voice is masculinity, meaning you can make all the changes in the physical training, you can make these emotional breakthroughs, but if you do not have this masculine edge to back it up, bro, they're only going to stay for so long, right? Because you're not going to be pushing yourself in the same way as you are whenever you're motivated from a YouTube video. The deepest change from your voice always comes in developing your masculinity. But first you have to realize that it makes sense you're not as masculine as you'd like to be right now, because society has kind of beat it out of you, especially with the schooling system where you were trained to raise your hand if you need to go pee, where any display of assertiveness, masculinity, horsing around with the boys, that is scolded out of you. You're supposed to sit still, listen. And on top of that, a bunch of social trends in the past decade have trashed masculinity. Whenever you have this idea that you really want to be a good man, you want to be the best possible man that you can, but you're hearing things like men are trash, men are garbage, all men are rapists. It's really easy to believe those things whenever you're not only seeing them on social media, but even some of your friends are saying them. But the good news is more and more people are realizing that masculinity is actually a really fucking good thing, and it's needed. So the very first thing you can do to start reclaiming your masculinity is to start acting in enlightened self-interest. Basically, you have a cup, right? This is your goblet, bro. And your cup is full to a certain degree. But once you're able to fill up your cup more and more and more to where it's overflowing, this is whenever you're able to fill up the cups of other people, right? That's when you're able to give to others, is when all of your needs are already met. But if you're staying down here, right? If your cup is only this full at any time, you can't give to other people. You're needy as fuck. And the whole point of this metaphor is in getting your needs met. When I was in this pretty awful period of my life, right, I was talking about losing that marketing client. I couldn't fill up other people's cups. I wasn't a fun person to be around. I was basically begging my roommate to hang out with me because I was alone. I was sad, bro. I probably wasn't fun to be around because I was just constantly talking about how sad I was. But compare that to when I moved to Nashville. If you know my story, I moved to Nashville and I immediately made a ton of amazing friends. I started dating the kinds of girls that I never thought that I'd date before. And it's because I started being real with myself, right? I started saying, of course, I need strong friendships. Of course, I need women in my life. Of course, I'm this masculine guy and I want to be masculine. As soon as this happened, I started being so much more fun to be around. I started being more giving to people. I started being more creative with dates that I take girls on. All of these good things happened in my life and I started to fill up my own cup. So now I could give to other people. So whenever you act in enlightened self-interest, you are making sure that your needs are met. You're putting yourself first. But it's not because you are being selfish, but because you recognize that the only way for you to be a good, positive influence on the other people around you is for you to make your life the best it can possibly be. Whenever you're walking around with a smile on your face every single day, how do you think the people around you are going to feel? So first of all, be a little bit selfish and be okay with that fact. Next is the idea of leaning beyond your edge. So there's this vast unknown out there of the real world. This is reality, and every person is born, and we know jack shit. We know absolutely nothing about reality. When you're a kid, you're told from your parents about what the real world is like, what reality is. You go to school and you learn a little bit, right? You learn, okay, this is how people are social. This is the kind of friends that I like. This is the kind of friend groups that I fit into. Presentations were scary, but I made a presentation and I did that shit, I lived. So you figure a little bit more and a little bit more out about life. And most people get comfortable in this little space right here. And they just stay here for all of their lives. But for you to be fulfilled, for you to actually feel something in life, for you to have this zest in everything that you do, that of course shows in your voice, you have to be constantly living out here on the edge, constantly doing things that you think are scary. Because when you do, not only are you learning more about the real world, about life, you're achieving more, you're earning more money, you're making better friends, meeting better and better girls. The more that you are living out here on the edge, the more fulfilled in life you are going to be. So I'll give an example of this being whenever I first started to go to the gym. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. It was so scary to me because I was very skinny. And I didn't want to look like an idiot in front of people, right? I thought I was going to go in there. People were going to judge me. They're going to think he hasn't been in here before. What the fuck is he doing? This skinny ass guy. I wasn't going to go in alone, but I asked my roommate, hey, please, bro, can you please take me to the gym? Because I've always wanted to go, but I don't know what to do. Can you just show me what to do? And he was like, okay, yeah, I guess. And he takes me into the gym and he shows me like these basic machines and stuff. And at that point, I'm like, okay, this isn't as scary now. I've done it once. So I take a friend who also doesn't know anything about the gym. So it's a little bit more scary because both of us don't know what we're doing. We have no real plan, but it's less scary than going alone. And then eventually, after I'm comfortable with that, I go in alone. And then I start doing scarier and scarier exercises. And then I start going up more and more in weight until now the gym is like my second home, bro. It's one of the best parts of my day. It's just going in for a workout. There's homies there that I'm saying what's up to all the time. There's the cute gym girlies that I'm trying to rizz up. And it's a fun time every time that I walk in. My point is, I didn't do this all at once. I took this step by step by step. And that is how you are living on your edge. It's consistently doing things that you are afraid of, that you feel fear towards. But it's doing just that tiny baby step in that direction. And if you are not feeling fear, it means that you are settling in life. But the way that you start taking these baby steps is through a skill that's actually a two-part skill called Decisive Courage. First part of this skill is you have to be decisive, meaning make decisions quickly and stick to them. Because if you allow yourself too much time to think, fear is going to take over. But the more that you do the things that you are afraid of, the more that you cure fear. And that is fucking powerful. Next is courage, is feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Because fear is your compass, meaning if you are afraid of something, you should probably do it because that is an area of growth for you. If you are constantly acting with decisive courage and living just beyond your edge, just beyond this edge of fear, it means that you're not going to settle for the job that pays well enough but isn't fulfilling to you. It means you're not going to settle for the girl that's just good enough but isn't really someone that you're that attracted to. This is how you get the best out of life. And it's not always easy. In fact, usually it's pretty fucking hard. But if you are acting in enlightened self-interest and constantly pushing beyond your edge, you are mastering the fundamentals of masculinity. And of course, bringing this back to voice, this all ties into each other. Meaning, by leveling up your masculinity, you are naturally going to be finding more and more situations that you are confident in. Meaning, more and more times where you are thinking and genuinely believing that no matter what happens, I will fucking handle it. And the more that you do this, the more you're able to level up the authority in your voice when you speak. And authority is literally an equation, right? It's truth plus confidence. Anytime you can speak the truth, meaning you are emotionally integrated, you understand what your needs are, and you are able to speak them with ease. And confidence, meaning you are living on your masculine edge and you are confident in the things that you are saying, the more that whatever it is you are saying comes off with authority. And this is incredibly important in persuading, seducing, convincing, in any part of charisma. The more that you are able to speak with authority about any part of life, the more respect that you get from other people. Another quick hack to level up your truth, authority, and confidence in life is creating your own creed, meaning actually lining out your principles, what you believe in, how you should be acting, because everyone has some kind of center that they act from. Some people, it's girls, right? It's the amount or quality of girls that they get. It's their relationship. It's the amount of money they make. It's the amount that they work. People have, maybe it's even church, dude. It can be a bunch of different things. You can have anything as your emotional center, but whatever you make your center, you end up killing. If you make your relationship your center, for example, like I used to do for the longest time, if my girlfriend wasn't happy, I wasn't happy. I constantly tried to solve her problems, and it put us into this pretty bad relationship pattern of her being someone who creates problems so that I would solve them, so that she can feel loved and so that I can feel valuable because I'm helping her and she gets helped. But in the long run, she didn't need me to solve her problems. She just needed me to be a support. Meaning over 2 years, I killed that relationship on accident because I didn't realize these psychological problems back then. I didn't realize I was making her my center, but I totally was. Same thing with money. If you obsess over money, you're going to feel like shit about yourself if at some point your business isn't making as much money. If you get laid off, right, you're going to think, oh, it's because I'm an awful person, not because shit happens. But if you were able to create a creed, meaning you live by your principles, you become principle centered. And that's huge because you can't kill principles. They're ideas. Meaning you take your value, your self-worth based on how well you are living to what you genuinely value. So what I did is I literally wrote out everything that I value in life and how I live to these values in a creed document. And then I just review it every month and I'm like, okay, where have I been fucking up? Where have I faltered? And then what can I do in the coming weeks to correct that? What can I do to be more honest with the people I love? What can I do to value relationships in the way that I want to? And that, my guy, is everything that I would do to create a deep, masculine, powerful voice if I had to do it all over again. And bro, if you're the kind of person who doesn't only just watch YouTube videos but puts this shit into action, I have no doubt that you are about to see just the most fulfilling kinds of relationships come into your life. By implementing each of these things, your self-image is immediately going to go through the roof. And then you're going to be able to network with these higher level guys, right? The kinds of people that you always imagined, like, maybe I could one day. That day is fucking coming, bro. And of course, because of that, you're going to want to talk to and get with the kind of girls who you used to think were out of your league, right? But there's no such fucking thing as leagues. And from there, your work life is going to pick up, whether you're starting a business and your self-image carries into that, or you're just in a career, bro. You're going to work like and look like and feel like the kind of guy who naturally is ambitious, who gets promotions just because you are him. And the people around you, the people who have always known you, are going to think, what has changed? Something is different, but I can't quite put my finger on it. And that, bro, that I cannot wait for you to feel. So one more time, if you want me to go over the exact steps and tactics in each of these pillars in mindset, in emotional integration, masculinity, and physical training to gain you this voice that gets you the kind of life that you fucking wanted, it's the first link in the description. And yeah, bro, just know that I'm proud and I'm absolutely rooting for you. And yeah. Goodbye.